Live from New York. It's the show that's wondering if Aaron Rodgers and Kevin Wildes are actually on vacation together. It's First Things First. JJ Reddick, I'll help you out, Jalen. It actually makes perfect sense. They were saying your road to the finals was easy, which is why they then picked against you in the finals. That's it. I hope that clears it up. However, defending champs since the Steph KD Warriors, not only have none of them repeated, none of them made a finals, none of them have even made a conference finals. So, Brew, do you believe a repeat is on the board for Boston?
It's definitely on the board. I mean, like possible, and I don't mean in a that sense, but it is absolutely on the board. If people want to have them as the favorites, fine. They should be one of the favorites, there's no doubt. Because, one, when you look at their age, all right, and Tatum is 26, Brown is 27. I mean, they are really maybe just beginning their prime. So you have to look at that. Secondly, the way that, yes, they had the easiest road we can remember to the finals. But still, they dismantled the Mavericks, who had gone through the Western Conference and had a tough road to the finals and beat them in 5.
And if I can add, even though the Mavs were a 5 seed, the Mavs post-trade deadline had the record and the numbers of an elite team. So I don't think it'd be fair for anyone to say their finals matchup was an easy one. They just made it look easy with how well they played.
So there's that, and then they should be better. Now, look, in fairness, I expected this type of leap from Anthony Davis from when he won that championship in the bubble. I said, here, because the monkey's off his back. He is going to be killing the league, and he never really took that step. But I do think Brown and Tatum, just as a team, they should be more confident because you've gotten it done. And there is a monkey off your back to some degree, but at the same time, a nice chip still on the shoulder. Because there are enough doubters and naysayers out there where I don't think they come into next season complacent, feeling like we've answered all the questions. Tatum still has doubters. As a team, they still have doubters. I mean, talking about how easy the road was. And they're a tough matchup, not for everybody in the West. Like OKC getting Caruso yesterday. I thought that was a great move for them. Giddey didn't give them much in the playoffs. So they'll be better. Obviously, Denver, Minnesota, Dallas. I think all those teams will be better. But there's still a tough matchup for Dallas. They're a tough matchup, I think, for Minnesota because Gobert and Towns have to get out on the floor and guard. Now, and Dallas, I said tough matchup for them. Denver would be tough. OKC, I think, matches up well with them. But they've got a chance. I am not picking them to repeat. I think we're in an era where it is parity, and I think the other teams, like I said, are going to get better. So I'm not picking it, but absolutely on the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think great minds here because I'm with you. They deserve to be the favorite, and it's not just Tatum and Brown's age, though obviously as the all-NBA caliber players and the superstars, those are the ones that we should focus on, 26, 27 years old. Derek White, he's not 30. Kristaps, he's not 30. Drew Holiday, he's 34. But he was just second-team All-NBA defense, so it's not like his play is sliding.
And they believe in him enough they gave him an extension during the year. So Horford's the only one that's an old guy that they restrict his minutes like an old guy and that retirement's on the board for. Go ahead.
And, I mean, Porzingis only played 57 games in the regular season, so it's in play that they even get more from Porzingis next year. Now, he's been injured throughout his career since early on, but still, there's room for reasonable improvement and just continuity is an asset. And then I think that second point you made, though, about the matchup. In the West, we talked, Minnesota, they were built to beat Denver, but how would that have worked against this team and that team? Who is Boston not built to beat? Their defense is so good. When you watch them, if you've got 5 guys who play defense and who can switch, and you've got a rim protector, and you can stop guys from penetrating to the paint, which is Drew Holiday's specialty, which is Jaylen Brown's specialty when he's locked in, there's no one that looks at Boston and is like, oh, that's a mismatch. We're going to hunt you. So whoever came out of the West would have a tough matchup with Boston. And then the reason why their finals odds are so low is because do we even have a definitive second-best team in the East?
That's That's the Vegas odds. I don't think that Vegas thinks Boston would be a massive favorite over Denver in the finals. But what they're saying is Denver would have so many landmines to get to the finals as we saw this year. And Boston, the East is riddled with question marks.
I might think it's Milwaukee, Philly,
Miami,
Indiana, New York.
The Knicks, whomever. I think that's a smart point. I think everything you said was smart except for the very beginning. Did you say great minds when you were talking about you and Brew? Was that how you
I'm the new guy. I'm just trying to. This is our side of the table.
Don't let him.
All right, so on the board, of course, likely no. And so let's just think about why the other teams who didn't repeat. The Raptors throw them out because they're a very unique situation. They didn't repeat because their best player came for a year, won a title, and left. No one thought they would. The Lakers were the favorites the next year, playing like it, top seed, 21-6, suffered an injury that knocked him down in the standings, which gave them a tough first-round matchup. And then in the playoffs, their other guy, Anthony Davis, suffered a different injury. It's like all of a sudden it's over. Like we all of that period of NBA history, post-bubble, right after it kind of melds together. But the Lakers defended their title excellently for the first half of that season and then fell apart. The Bucks, it was even more stark. The Bucks were the favorites, the defending champs. Giannis was playing as well as ever. They were rolling. And then Chris Middleton got hurt at the very beginning of the playoffs. And despite that, they were still the favorites. They're up 3-2 on Boston, and it's over for them. The Warriors, this would be the old, I think it was Isaiah, who said, I don't know if it was Isaiah Thomas or Pat Riley who said it to Bill Simmons in his book. But the Warriors, I would say, it was the disease of more. There was bitterness, anger about contracts, jealousy, whatever. It manifested in the punch to Jordan Poole. That, I don't think anyone on the Celtics is going to hit somebody, but that is a weird thing that happens when you win a title sometimes is egos that didn't exist start to exist. And then Denver's the most jarring because no one really saw it coming. I know you picked the Timberwolves to beat them, but over the course of the year, they didn't look vulnerable. In that series, they're up 20 at home in a Game 7, and their title defense ends in a half hour, just out of nowhere. And so that's why I think your point on the era we're in, from 1987 to 2002, that's 16 seasons. Every single champion at least repeated, except for one. Duncan's 99 Spurs, who then didn't repeat, but then won 3 more in the next 8 years after that. Every other champion repeated. Since then, the repeat champions are legendary teams, or this is where Kobe deserves a lot of credit. The Lakers with Kobe, Powell, and Bynum, that group, that wasn't a legendary team.
But they all had a legendary player.
A legendary player, and, oh, yeah, by the way, maybe the greatest coach of all time's fingerprints are on a lot of those repeats. So I just don't – we were used to, Brew, repeats being commonplace in the NBA, almost standard. It really hasn't been that hasn't been the case in the last, obviously, 6 years.
And I also think this. Look, they should be the favorite in the East. For sure, but it's not going to be easy. I mean, barring injury, and obviously we don't want – the injuries felt like it was more than ever this season. So hopefully the league can get on top of that and players aren't going down. But Milwaukee, and I've had Dame on my butt list yesterday. How do you think he's feeling right now? I mean, I don't think it's on him, but he should take this personal. Giannis should take this person. It's been a long time now, it feels like, since Giannis, we thought he was going to take over the league.
But also, Giannis greenlit them moving on from Drew Holiday. And then so Drew Holiday might have been the final piece here.
What's Philadelphia going to do?
Well,
there's talk that they've waned on their interest in Paul George, but they should be better. They make some moves.
Right now, they have 3 players on their roster, so they're going to
do a lot of things.
Be a lot different.
The other thing is, like, you picked Dallas. You picked Dallas.
Yes.
Right. I remember talking to you guys about, like, if we were going to draft players in the finals, we were like, all right, Luka would go 1, but then how many in the next 7 would be on Boston?
I mean, Kyrie and 5 Celtics.
Right. So I'm not saying Boston's a super team or a dynasty or anything like that, but there is something to the 5th starter on their team got all-star votes this year.
Yes.
I mean, Derek White got all-star votes. He made second-team All-NBA defense. This is a very good team. Right. So I definitely think it's not just on the board. They've got a really good shot at repeating.
It feels a lot like Denver, except they don't have the superhuman in Jokic, but they do, I think
they're not going to be losing. critical members.
Well, Denver only lost the one. You know what I mean? It was just Bruce
Jeff
Brown.
Green.
Oh, Jeff Green, Uncle Jeff.
I mean, not that they were.
Yeah, but they did lose
starters.
piece of rotation. All right, so sticking with the NBA for a moment, we will.
There have been more than a dozen players that became head coaches without any experience. Okay, so I guess some people might say in that sense, but I would say no. I would say none of them were qualified, whether they did well or not. If there is a certain thing as a qualification for a head coach, JJ Reddick doesn't meet it. He has coached no one over 12 years old, ever. You know, so how can you be, no one can say with a straight face that he's qualified, okay? Even if you look at the players that went to become head coaches, because who was successful? And I know there's a number, Mark Jackson I thought had success, but I'm going to talk about success relative to what does JJ Reddick have to do to be viewed as successful?
Yeah.
That's okay. If he has to be Steve Kerr.
No. I would say Steve Kerr's been successful.
Right. Steve Kerr's been successful. Doc Rivers won a championship.
But not with the team that hired him.
Not with the team that hired him.
Yep.
But Larry Bird was successful.
Yep.
Got to the finals. And Jay Kidd, not with the team that hired him.
That's the other key.
But he's been to the finals.
So let me jump in on that point.
So you're saying Kerr's the only one?
Well, I'm going to show it to you. So since Bird, there have been 9. It'll be easier for the audience to see than you guys, but I'll explain what that says. 9 coaches who had no experience ever get a job like JJ Reddick. The only one that won more than one playoff series with the team that hired him is Kerr. The only one. So, I mean, Doc Rivers, 3 seasons in Orlando, 0 playoff series. Isaiah Thomas, 3 seasons in Indy, 0 playoff series. Vinny Del Negro, famously, 3 seasons in Chicago, 0 playoff series wins, might have been 2. Mark Jackson, 3 seasons in Golden State, 1 playoff series win. Jay Kidd, 1 season with the Nets, 1 playoff series win. Kerr, 6 and 23, all that stuff. And then Derek Fisher, 2 seasons, 0 playoff series. Steve Nash, 3 seasons, 1 playoff series. So even the ones, Brew, this is why it's such a risk that we're Doc, Jay Kidd. Yep. Oh, those are good coaches. Not for the team that hired them.
Right.
Not until they got, you know what? Experience.
And they did okay.
They did okay, but it didn't.
Okay's not going to save it.
Okay's not going to save it. Right. So it's just our old, I don't want to quote him because I don't know if he wanted to be quoted. But someone brought this up to me yesterday, and I thought it was a good point. Why has JJ not gotten the Jeff Saturday treatment?
Oh, I can answer that.
Why?
At least football is different.
Oh, because it's just the bar?
It is the hardest of the 3 major sports to coach. I think the coach has much more is a factor in the success. I cannot imagine, and I don't know why the Colts did, that anyone
Correct.
could step out of never coaching to coaching the NFL football. Basketball, it can be done.
So that's why he didn't get the full Jeff Saturday treatment. I guess the reason it piqued my interest was the Jeff Saturday thing was a sign of a totally dysfunctional organization, owner. It was a punchline, right? And the JJ thing is he's going to walk in as an above average coach as far as pay. $8 million a year is more than Missoula makes. Yep. It's more than they were willing to offer Ty Lue.
What was Ham? I thought around 5.
I thought Ham was around 4 and Vogel was around 5. My answer, Danny, is no, he is not.
So the reporting on this for me, and I trust the reporters. Yeah. I know some of them. Yeah. Some of it's been weird. Some of it's been pretty straightforward. It is beginning to strain the limits of logic for me to say that LeBron sat back and had no word, no influence. Okay, maybe he wants plausible deniability, but does anyone here really believe JJ Reddick is the coach of the Lakers if he does not host a podcast with LeBron James?
No, but I don't think those two things are necessarily the same thing as what you're saying. I think they might have hired him because he hosts the pod with LeBron. I do not think that necessarily means LeBron called Rob Pelinka or Jeannie Buss and endorsed this.
I agree, but the smoke signal has been up on JJ Reddick for weeks. I mean, we know that Coach K is advising Rob Pelinka on this. We know that LeBron has a relationship with Coach K. I mean, he could call his podcast producer if he didn't want it to be JJ Reddick.
If he wants to be involved, if LeBron wanted to be involved, I'm not against LeBron being involved. I don't think he was, but he's LeBron James.
No, of course, I'm not against it either.
He's the best player on the team. So I have no problem if he was involved. To answer your question, I don't think the podcast has something to do with it. Like him being hired. I think the Lakers can say, look, we know that our team leader respects this guy. So if JJ Reddick steps into training camp and has the respect of LeBron, which he will, then that should get everybody else in line. The reason I disagree that he could have got the job had they not done a podcast is because JJ was on the head coaching radar. He got interviewed by Toronto last year. Yeah. They got one of the best GMs in the league, Masai Ujiri. Charlotte
was interesting.
But he got he got him interviewed with them this year. So I think he would have gotten some interest from the Lakers regardless.
That may be true. It just seems to me like if LeBron didn't want this to happen, he'd put it out there. And
agree with that.
You know, they give him ample opportunity to reach out and be like, no, we don't want it. It was like, okay, LeBron doesn't want to make this hire. He doesn't want the responsibility of it because JJ should be coaching there long beyond when LeBron James is done playing for the Lakers and done playing in the NBA. It just strikes me that relationship is too much of a coincidence.
The hire happened, right? JJ's the coach?
He's the coach.
Has LeBron said anything? I find that a little interesting. LeBron today tweeted a beautiful article, wonderful article about his lovely wife Savannah from Harper's Bazaar. Yesterday, LeBron tweeted about Ryan Coogler.
Don't you think it's smart?
I
don't think it would look. LeBron already knows that the perception is he hired JJ Reddick.
Correct.
I wouldn't tweet anything if I were him.
Okay, well, I'm just observing that it hasn't happened.
The question is, has AD or any of the other players tweeted? Then maybe they have.
I don't even think AD has a Twitter, and he certainly is not tweeting today. Alex Caruso, I don't know if it was a tweet or what it was, but Alex Caruso, there was some type of quote about Alex Caruso keeping receipts and how this is going to help him. So I'm not sure what those receipts are, but
the first interview with JJ and the Lakers was weeks ago. How many podcast episodes have they done since then? Like JJ and LeBron have talked about JJ being the coach of the Lakers.
Okay, all right. We'll talk LeBron here for another moment. In more LeBron news, Dan Wojcicki of the.
I won't say none, but I think 2%. I think it's small, but I will. And the reason I go 2%, maybe I should go a little higher. And LeBron, I covered a lot of his free agencies. Mm-hmm. He always plays it close to the vest. Yeah. All right, so no matter what, and that's why, like when Cleveland, and that was his first one, or first one when he left, he did not. They weren't sure. Does LeBron still want Mike Brown? Does he want Mike Brown fired? They got no word from LeBron. All right, he just stayed out of it, and I think that's what he did with this. But he is like even when he's texting with Dan Hurley, he's saying if I'm there. So that makes you think, are the wheels turning in his head? And I'll say this, we know he's not going to Phoenix. Rich Paul is on the record. He's not going to Phoenix for the minimum.
Yeah.
Probably not going anywhere for the minimum.
Well, right. And that takes out almost all the contenders, almost all of them, all right? You got Philly, which has the cap room, makes great sense basketball-wise.
Yeah.
All right? But I don't see that necessarily happen. Then I'm going to throw out a few other teams. Miami, I don't think they have the trade. They'd have to make a trade. Yeah. I don't think they have the pieces, all right, because they'd have to give up a lot of their pieces that LeBron would want to play with. Cleveland has the pieces because Darius Garland. The Knicks is the one to me because if LeBron wants to really make a splash, and look, we know he cares about the GOAT conversation.
Course,
he can say he doesn't, but he cares about it.
This week with that fraudulent Defensive Player of the Year award being taken from Michael Jordan.
I'm not sure. I still got to look through the film.
I'm just telling you.
I'll choose my sources.
The door's a little more wide open, but go ahead.
But look, real talk. LeBron's, now forget all, some players were with Derek Jeter, with one team their whole career, Kobe Bryant.
That ain't Bron.
That's not Bron. He's been around. Lean into it if you want. And if he went to New York, you lead if you won a championship there, 4 championships for 4 different teams, and you would all of a sudden, if you lead New York to the first title in 50-some-odd years, you got the New York media on your side in the GOAT debate.
Absolutely.
And so if he wants to do this, and there are trades that make sense for the Lakers.
Right. So there's
Julius Randle and whoever.
There's
Josh
trades
Hart, Mitchell Robinson.
So I also think. You wouldn't necessarily have to give up. If LeBron, like you said, Miami, do they have it? If LeBron's threatening to leave for nothing, then all of a sudden it doesn't really have to be a fair one-for-one trade.
But you get 40 cents on the dollar instead of the whole thing just to get something instead of nothing. I mean, I think he's going back to L.A., but if he does go back to L.A., you said it's 2% that he leaves. Exactly. He's not winning.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's probably 2% that they win a title in L.A. I know the odds would say it's a little bit better than that.
Not much. They're 40-1.
But yeah, not much. So that's the part that'll make that interesting of, oh, he's choosing, for whatever reason, happiness, weather, family, but it won't be a basketball reason.
So I'm just going to make, I think, a pretty common sense observation. There's a reason he has not publicly committed. And it is the only logical reason is trying to leverage to make sure the Lakers are making moves that show they have the urgency that he has. Well, no moves have yet been made, right? Now they haven't had an opportunity to yet other than the head coach search, which I think even if LeBron's fine with JJ, they kind of botched because they didn't get the guy they initially wanted. So whatever their first move of the offseason was, let's just say it didn't go swimmingly. The fact, until he publicly commits, that to me, if he's like, man, I hope we trade for a third star, whether that's smart or not. I hope that we, do this with our draft pick. I hope we bring these players back. If the reason he is not publicly committed is because there are things he wants the Lakers to do, then to me, logic only says if they don't do those things, he could leave. And I think that this idea that now that they've hired JJ, he's lock and stock back, he could just tell us. And they're not. It's not like they're going to lowball him on the contract. Right. Like, the leverage isn't about money. The leverage is about moves. So I think it's more than 2%. I don't think it's 20%, but I think it's more than 2%.
And look, if he were to leave, everybody's like, well, JJ Reddick, how would he feel? I know he wants to coach LeBron.
It would probably be a little relief.
Right. I mean, seriously, it wouldn't be championship or bust.
Right. For JJ's long-term coaching prospects, it wouldn't be the worst thing to not have all those.
It'd be pretty embarrassing for the Lakers.
It'd be unbelievable. JJ's the coach, Bronny's their second-round pick, and LeBron's playing. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.